depending on how it goes. But I won't, you know, I will probably deviate a little. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, got it. What's your name? Griffin. I'm true. Yep. Thank you. T minus one. T minus 60. All right. Hello, 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 everyone. How's everybody doing today? That was some okay, some not so okay. I'm not quite sure what type of response that was. I'll try one more time because I care about y'all. I love y'all. Let me start by just saying that I love y'all. So I want to make sure everybody's doing well. How y'all doing tonight?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about right there, right? All right. Well, welcome everyone to the first installment of Community Conversations 4.0. That's where y'all clap.
Yeah.
My name is True Pettigrew. I have the pleasure of serving as the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Minnesota Lynx, and I am extremely excited and honored to be serving as your moderator for today's discussion and conversation. Now, if some of you are looking at the photograph up there right now and you see that bald guy, I know you may be a little confused right now, right? And I'll be honest though, I wasn't sure how I felt about the hair at first, but then it grew on me. I'm here a week. Okay, no, but in all seriousness, thank you all for being here. I am excited to dive into what I'm sure is going to be a very rich conversation with our special guests. And I have the honor and pleasure of introducing our panelists for today. To my immediate left, we have Mr. Warren McLean, the president of NEON, the Northside Economic Opportunity Network. A round of applause for Warren. And to Warren's left, we have my good friend, Miss Gloria Freeman. I'm a big fan, and she knows this, a big fan of Gloria. Founder and CEO of Olu's Home. And then next to Gloria, my new friend, Anissa Keyes, founder and owner of Aruba Emotional Health Services and the creator of the Northside Epicenter, a Black business ecosystem. Let's hear it for Anissa. And joining us to my far left is Miss Kenya McKnight-Ahad. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes.
All right, and Kenya is the founder and CEO of Black Women's Wealth Alliance. Round of applause for our panelists for this evening. And as our host, I would be remiss if I did not introduce our host with the most for this evening, Mr. Warren McLean. Warren leads NEON as its president, and he ensures that the organization continually evolves to meet the needs of North Minneapolis. Right? Yep, come on, okay. Northsiders, NFL in the building, all right, I hear y'all over there. So Warren brings more than 30 years of experience in finance, fundraising, strategic planning, and program development to NEON. And Warren is also, his dedication to being a champion for entrepreneurs has earned him recognition in 2023 as one of 200 Black leaders in Minnesota by the Minneapolis St. Paul Business Journal, all right? one of Twin Cities Business Magazine's 2021 100 Minnesotans to Know in 2021. Also in 2021, the Minneapolis St. Paul Business Journal named Warren a most admired CEO. I admire you, brother. I definitely do. I can co-sign that. Warren has been president of NEON since August of 2018, and since joining NEON in 2018, the organization has grown significantly, serving more than 1,300 clients in 2022, creating a $1.5 million loan fund and acquiring its building as a part of its Growth and Thrive campaign. And prior to NEON, Warren was at CRF for 15 years, where he led the development work as Senior Vice President and Chief Development Officer. Prior to his work at CRF, Warren led the Metropolitan Economic Development Association, and as President and CEO for 10 years. And under Warren's leadership, META tripled its budget, solidified its financial stability, and built a $5.3 million loan program to support minority-owned businesses in the community. And for decades, ladies and gentlemen, he shared his expertise as a board member with community organizations across the Twin Cities. He currently serves on the board of the Metropolitan Consortium of Community Developers, 4 Access Partners, Steering Committee of Destination Northside Coalition, 927 board, and the Catalyst Group. Ladies and gentlemen, our host for today, Mr. Warren McLean.
Thank you.
So, Warren, tell us, man, you've been lending a lot of money, sounds like, bro. I'm gonna have to talk to you after this panel discussion. But talk to us a little bit right now about why we're here today. What are we going to be talking about today?
Well, before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors, because without them, this event wouldn't happen. So first I want to thank Twin Cities Business, Sagliti, API Group, Mortensen, Wells Fargo, Target, U.S. Bank, Best Buy, Alaris, Land of Lakes, Augsburg University, Capella University, Caribou Coffee, Excel Energy, Northeast Bank. And so let's give a round of applause to all of our sponsors. So true, we're here today to learn more from our amazing women about building wealth and creating flourishing businesses. So I would say let's get started.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. And so I'll start with you, Gloria, and you know, there's a wealth of information as we talk about wealth that I could share about you and all of your achievements and accomplishments and who you are. But I want to give you the opportunity for maybe a minute or two just to talk about who you are and what your business does. You know, instead of reading all of the accolades in your bio, I want everyone to hear directly from you who you are and what you do.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. So I started Olu's Home over 20 years ago, and that is assisted living and group residential service as well as in-home service to adults that are severely mentally ill or developmentally disabled. We branched into the senior housing as well. About 7-8 years ago, we bought this old City Inc. building in North Minneapolis, and my daughter and I, Jessica, started the early childhood program there. She actually runs the program. And then a few years later, I bought a building in Uptown, and we're having a grand opening April 10th.
Okay.
And one of the commercial spots, I decided to start an incubator space I had been working on for years. And once I was able to acquire the building in one of the commercial spots, we created an incubator space for people in the beauty and health industry. I own You want me to go into all of this? Yeah. I own.
Go for it.
I own a lot of land with a partner of mine, Kenya McKnight-Ahad, that's here today. We bought a lot of land on off of Plymouth Avenue in North Minneapolis, and we're developing an assisted living. And I'm doing another development as well on my own. So,
Okay, Gloria,
yeah.
you doing it, all right. I like those words, that ownership. I own this, I own that. I love those words, ownership. And I'm seeing a trend, because Warren, if I recall correctly, you now own your own building as well, right? So there's a trend going on here, ownership. Now, if y'all taking notes, let that be the first note, ownership, right? And is a part of building wealth is what the first lesson that I learned from this. So, Anissa, please talk a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Anissa Keyes. I'm the owner and founder of Aruba Emotional Health Services. I started my company 10 years ago now, and we've grown. We're really about going to where people are at to support them with mental health challenges, which means we partner with a lot of agencies in the community that are supporting the population we want to serve, but not providing emotional health support. And so we go there, we co-locate on the site, we provide that continuity of care for when they leave, and then we're able to sort of support them in their journey to reintegrate into the community. So we have schools as partnerships, we have chemical dependency treatment centers, shelters, transitional living facilities sort of open. In addition to that, I am a Northsider for life. And so I continue to grow my business and then eventually plant permanently in North Minneapolis. So I purchased a space on 52nd and Bryant, which is a healing center, which we then begin to integrate both traditional talk therapy along with other healing modalities, mostly indigenous practices, so body work practices, so that we can sort of combine those to provide sort of a holistic model of care for our community. As Aruba continued to grow, we purchased a building on 42nd in Lindale. We will put our headquarters there. We're excited about that. We'll be on the 3rd floor. In addition to that, there'll be quite a few other Black business owners that will be in the space. So we have coined that space the Northside Epicenter, which is a Black business ecosystem, which we're going to utilize to bring Black businesses into one space, creating communal support, also allowing for the Black dollar in the community to be regenerated and recirculated. We're trying to bring products and services that are not typically accessible in our community and ensure that people who actually need brick and mortar are getting it, rather than sort of a similar pattern of people having access that have always had access. And so we have designated that space particularly for businesses of color. In addition to that, Aruba's continuing to grow. I recently transitioned into sort of a visionary role at the agency. We have our executive director here. I'm so excited. So she is doing the hands-on and the day-to-day of the agency as we're continuing to grow and continue to explore our options. We want to really be solidified in North Minneapolis as a community-based mental health clinic that has standards of excellence that serves our community in a holistic way. So that is me.
No, thank you very much, Anissa. I appreciate that. Really appreciate all the impactful work that you're doing in our community, and specifically in the Black community, even more specifically in North Minneapolis. And there are a couple of things that I heard you share that I want to unpack, and we'll get back to it. But you talked about mental health services, but you also made a distinction in where you talked about emotional health services, right? And I've never been familiar with that as a standalone industry of emotional health services, and you know how that lines up with your healing center. So I've got tons of questions around that, and how are they linked and how are they distinct?
Sure.
So I definitely want to unpack that more. Thank you for that. So Kenya, who are you, and why, you know, what do you do, and what gets you up in the morning?
Work. Kenya McKnight-Ahad, CEO and founder of the Black Women's Wealth Alliance since 2014, but I'm also a developer. I'm a real estate owner, investor, and I'm also a philanthropist. I'm an auntie. I'm also an auntie of like 24 little people. So I have a really busy life, and I'm the matriarch of my family. So, and in some respects in the community as well. I'm seen as a very important matriarch that takes care of a lot of people and households. In my work as the founder and CEO of the Black Women's Wealth Alliance, my central goal is to build wealth with Black women who in Minnesota, nearly 80% of us are the primary breadwinners of our household. Despite our marital status, that isn't really equally met with financial opportunity. So my goal is to do 3 things, and now 4, with being the owner of Zara, a commercial property on West Broadway, known as home to Breaking Bread Cafe. So 2021, we acquired that building after being tenants for 4 years. In the Black Women's Wealth Alliance, I provide cultural wealth education through our Queennomics program that is focused on the history of Black economics, the financial character of Black women, and the fundamentals of wealth building, something we designed in 2019. And in that, we also provide business support services. As you all know, Black women are leading new business startups across Minnesota and the United States. And our services focuses a lot on leadership and strategy. We leave it to Neon and the rest of them to do the business training. Although as an entrepreneur myself, we certainly provide them with some of those technical support services, being a provider with the city of Minneapolis and other government entities. Thirdly, we provide direct financial assistance through our Asset Legacy Fund, where we've administered over $2 million worth of grants ourselves to support the capacity of Black women entrepreneurs. And then we work with other lenders where we've leveraged $1.5 million worth of loans for Black-owned businesses, which some do include Black men, but our target certainly is what we call historical Black women. We distinguish amongst the diaspora to get at the racial equity that we know is important for Black women who are direct descendants of Black folks of this land. So that is my work. Outside of that, I've just worked in community for over 20 years as an activist, an organizer, a policy leader, a regional planner. And again, we own commercial property, 1 building and 4 residential properties that we'll be developing in 2025 to provide home ownership opportunities for Black women.
Wow. I am clearly underachieving in my life after hearing all the phenomenal things this group of panelists are doing. Multi-talented, multifaceted, multi-dimensional, each and every one of you. And I have my own thoughts and beliefs as to why each and every one of you are here, and deservingly so. But Warren, as the CEO of Neon, who curated this, what was it about these amazing women that drove you to select them to serve as panelists to educate the rest of us today?
Well, you used a good adjective, amazing. Each one of them is amazing, and that's one of the reasons why they were selected. I mean, they first of all, they're all developers, and they've executed, so they've done development. So it's not theory, it's execution. And so we're excited about that. They're all at different levels. Gloria has, for instance, become a real estate mogul now. But what I liked is initially she invested in City Inc. and repurposed that building. And it had been vacant for, I don't know, a number of years, maybe 10 years or so. But she repurposed it. And I think that was an excellent example of her commitment to North Minneapolis. And she's obviously done a lot more since then. And today she was sharing a lot of that. Most of it I didn't know, but just the fact that she invested in North Minneapolis. And then thinking about Anissa, again, outgrew her space. She got the building on, 52nd? And now that's become like a trauma center. But she also intentionally invested in North Minneapolis. And then Kenya has got the Zara. And again, that was a 1200 building where Breaking Bread is and so forth. And that building is now, being refurbished and remodeled and changed to turn into something else. And I just applaud them for that because they intentionally invested in North Minneapolis, where you're hearing headlines about other people who are leaving and abandoning North Minneapolis, but they're making an intentional investment to invest there. And so I applaud that. I think the investments are going to be catalytic to North Minneapolis, but they're role models both with their execution in terms of successfully developing projects and also their intentionality when investing in North Minneapolis.
No, thank you, thank you. And to that point, so Kenya, what was your inspiration for the development and creation of Zara? And with the focus specifically on helping Black women to become business owners and to build wealth, how did that influence or impact your work in community engagement and community impact and economic development?
Yeah, so I'm a healer. I've practiced, I'm a herbalist privately, so I administer natural medicine. Been doing that for over 20 years, and so it's my private world that I brought to the public. Gotcha. And in my work, we work with a lot of, I'm an astrologer as well, we work with a lot of Black women who are practitioners, who are massage therapists, Reiki, workers, et cetera, who work in the industry. And as I was looking at some of the retail market, because, it's all about also doing business, right? Yep. We're helping people, but we're helping people while doing business. And I noticed that there's over $20 million that leaves the North Side in this industry. And when I look at the women who I work with, who are just practitioners, not owning their own necessarily, places, they work at like Massage Envy or something like that, and they might be making like $38 an hour, or a client, if you will, for a service that might cost $200 or so. So I thought about well, how do we help these women build real infrastructure that's lacking, and how do we retain? We have a leakage problem, right? And so how do we retain some of the money in our community? And in 2018, we did a 90-day Wealth Academy, and we did health and wellness as one of our tracks. And most of the women, we had 70 students who participated, and most of them were in the health and wellness industry. So that kind of piqued our eyes, and we created our first wellness center there inside of the 1200 building. At the time, we leased a small space that we allowed these women to use, to do their services, Right, they just paid as they could. So that is really where that started. And during 2020, it just came to me, the name, and I didn't know what to do with it. It was like two names. I thought maybe I was gonna have twins or something. It was Zara and Zahir, and I was like, well, I'm like 46, I don't know. But turned into really creating a holistic wellness incubator. And so we're a model, right? And so for us, we have three components of Zara, and that is the retail space. We have the only sit-down restaurant on West Broadway right now in Commercial Kitchen. So we want to turn that into a food hall. So we're modifying it into an actual food hall. It'll be the first food hall on Broadway. And we also need an event space, right? And so it's a $10.5 million development project. We're set to break ground this fall. We've raised, over $8 million of it already. But it came to me in 2020, and the last part I'll share about it is I moved out of the place, because I just couldn't keep up with the rent as a business owner myself. Right. In early 2020. And by the end of the year, after talking with the mayor and being a part of his council to think about how do we create strategies for Black people to build wealth through commercial ownership, I thought, why am I sitting on this council with the mayor, helping him thinking about these tactics, and I hadn't thought about it for myself. So I started looking for a building, and nothing was available. And someone was like, what about the building you just moved out of? There was no for sale sign, but I called Stu Ackerberg, who was the owner at the time. He said it was for sale, and I purchased it. And that vision stayed in my mind, though, about this wellness space, because that's who we primarily work with in our work, and they just don't have the same infrastructure as beauty entrepreneurs and others. So they're working in these, salons, spas, but we need to create our own infrastructure to retain our money and to grow these opportunities and services in our community. So those are all the different components that went into inspiring me to create Zara, which, by the way, means to be radiant and to flourish. It's feminine in its nature, and it's like a flower.
Okay, all right, Zara. I got a Zara side in me. Yeah, I feel radiant. Yeah, okay. I love how you initially answered the question and said, I'm a healer, right? That's who I am. That's what I've been called to do. Like, that is purposeful for me. So it's just so matter-of-factly is how you answered that question. So what I'm hearing for our audience, others who want to build wealth, is, something that aligns with who you are and your natural gifts and talents, right? And it also sounds like you have a passion for empowering other Black women. So you found that intersection point between your gifts and your passions. And I think when we do that, we can't be stopped. So thank you for sharing that nugget. And Anissa, same with you, with the Northside Epicenter. What was your inspiration behind that, and what is the future of the Epicenter?
Yeah, I wasn't inspired like Kenya. Mine was more
Didn't
out
come
of
to you in a vision
circumstance.
like you was gonna have triplets or something like nothing like that?
Yeah. So Aruba was growing, and initially it was just going to be our headquarters. That was the idea, right? And so Aruba was just going to move in, and we were going to continue to rent the space to whoever was there. They were 95%, at tenancy occupancy, and so we were good with that. And then while I was under contract to purchase, there was a killing at the building. 23-year-old young man got shot at a barbershop that had been sort of like a little bit of a cornerstone in the community. He had been there for about 10 years, 8 to 10 years. The barbershop owner left. The young man was killed. There was a 2-year-old that was in the chair getting their hair cut as well. The 2-year-old's mom was shot, so she was injured. But this young man died, and it sort of caused an exit for people at the building. And so the day after I had closed, the main anchor in the building called me and was like, this is your 30-day notice. I'm out. Wow. And so after he left, several of the other tenants left as well. At the time, of course, as a new developer, I was shook and scared. But I look back that it was an opportunity to sort of create this space that was really needed in North. And I had now a kind of an empty canvas to kind of do what I wanted to do. And in my mindset, we have these spaces that we're rehabbing with the state of Minneapolis at that time, especially North. I was like, I'm moving Black business owners in here. I have the leverage to be able to do it. I know what the needs of the community are. I also was talking to a lot of other small business owners, and I had heard some of their challenges of getting a brick and mortar. I also understood and knew some of the difficulties with my personal resources leaving the community because I had to go elsewhere to get what I needed, which was a frustration for me. And so here I am with this 20,000 square foot space, and I was like, I know how important it is for Black business owners to be in connection with one another. I know how difficult it is for them to find space. I know the challenges that the community has with the recirculation of the Black dollar and it constantly leaving. Why not do some placemaking support here and provide a space that's safe, that's reflective, that Black business owners are considered in the creation of it, and why not, sort of like create it just for them. And so that then became the vision. That was not necessarily my inspiration, or I wasn't inspired to do that. I think it was just the matter of circumstances, the anchor tenant leaving, the needs of the community. And so the hope is that we're able to move in Black business owners. We are not trying to leave out and be exclusive, but in the creation of the space, in the consideration of the space, Black business owners are who are being considered in moving in the space. And so that was sort of a compelling move, not necessarily like inspiring. I don't think it's something that I would have planned for. It's hard to pull off, and so we'll see how it goes. I'm hopeful.
No, thank you for that. And maybe not necessarily inspiring, but it sounds like you were motivated by a need, to meet a need and to fill a need with people that you saw that may not necessarily living out to their full potential or receiving the services that they needed, right? And yes, you were motivated to fill a need. And I think we all have the ability to fill needs in our own respective spheres of influence, but it's a difference between the ability and the willingness, and
Yeah.
you were willing to do it. So thank you for that commitment.
Absolutely.
Yep. So Gloria, you work with people with disabilities and people with mental illness. Was that something that was part of the plan, or was there a inspiration behind that, or a sense of motivation behind how you got into that space? And you do it specifically in North Minneapolis.
Well, I do it throughout the Twin Cities.
throughout
We
the
have
Twin
13
Cities.
residential
Oh, okay. So he did say you was a mobile,
in
my
St.
bad.
Paul and Minneapolis. So I did not start out because I felt like I wanted to work in the mental health industry. I was an underwriter for many, many years, and I got laid off. And I was helping someone write a proposal to Hennepin County to be able to become licensed to become a provider. And the person was moving slow, and I decided, why not? And so I decided to go for it, and I went through this interviewing process and, was able to get licensed through the state and Hennepin County to be able to provide this service. But hindsight, sometimes you don't realize what you're doing when you're doing it, right?
Yep.
So my mother suffered from mental health issues all my life. And when I go back and I think about why am I in this place, I think about, I belong there because of the challenges that I saw as a family member with someone as close to me as my mother suffering from mental illness. I have a certain compassion for people, adults, that go through that process. And I didn't realize that until later on in my journey that it was meant to be.
No, that's powerful. I do believe a lot of the things that happen to us in our lives, it's all not necessarily happening to us. Sometimes it's happening for us.
Yes.
Right? And when we finally are doing the thing that we've been called to do and we're supposed to do, we realize that those things have simply been practice and preparation for us to really live up to the call that's been placed on our lives, is what I'm hearing from you. So thank you for that. And you talked about challenges. Anissa, I want to come back to you really quickly to get a sense of you work with Neon, is that correct? And what were some of the challenges you faced that led you to work with Neon, and what services has Neon been able to provide you to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I love Neon. I was doing okay for about 3 or 4 years in business, and I had a mom who had been like a successful business owner, so I had some awareness of how to run a business, but I had gotten to this level of like having, learned everything I could from her, and had sort of exceeded what she had done in the past as far as in business. And so I kind of hit a plateau. And I knew I was making money because I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck anymore. But I didn't know like the books or the forms or the reports to know whether or not I was, like how I was making money and how much money I was making. I knew I had 4 locations at the time, and we were renting in all those locations. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And so I came into Neon. I talked specifically to Steven, who is my favorite black man. So I talked to him, and he was like, yeah, so, tell me about what's going on. And I was like, well, I think I'm making money. I feel like I don't really know that for sure, but like my bank account looks okay. And he was like, well, how do you know that? And I was like, I can just feel it. And he was like, well, yeah, bank is probably not gonna go for that. And so, so my first help was, number one, being in a space with somebody who was reflective of me, right? Because I had been in a part of cohorts where people didn't look like me, and it was really hard to have them give me insight when I know that they didn't understand my background and they didn't know exactly the challenges that I was being met with. So just sitting down with someone at Neon, right, and them being reflective of you was huge. But then Stephen helped me to put my books together to be able to present to the bank what they needed to see to show that I was making money. That felt good for me personally, to know like, oh, there is a bottom line and it's positive, we're in the green. But then also to be able to learn the skills to be able to go outside of the circle of people that I had really grown comfortable with, but did not have the need or the knowledge that I needed to go further. So that was one thing that Neon helped. They continued over the years to continue to support me through lending, through just like emotional support. When I came up with this crazy idea to do this Northside Epicenter, this Black business ecosystem, and I wanted to help everybody, and I wanted Black business owners to come, whether they had money or not. Stephen was like, Anissa, slow down, Jim Shoe. And so I feel like they've just always been a support, a reflective support of what I've needed, and always sort of there to train, to get me to where I need to go, especially since I did not have that personal access within my family or within my extended network. So.
Right. Now, so Neon gave you some tools to establish infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
To really monetize your passions, your gifts, your vision.
Yes.
Right. And also help you to understand not to allow your heart to get so big that it shrinks your wallet. I think is what I'm hearing right now.
You said it better than me.
Okay. All right. So Warren, let's loop you into this conversation. Give us an example of, and we just heard an incredible example from Anissa. Give us an example of a client that was faced with a challenge and the reservoir of knowledge and the toolbox that Neon was able to provide to help them to overcome that challenge.
Oh, sure. But first I want to say Anissa just joined our board, so we're excited about that. So let's give her a hand.
Excellent.
So a recent example is we had a client who was as a contractor. He had a contract with the city of Minneapolis to develop affordable housing properties in North Minneapolis. And during the course of doing that, he discovered that there were errors in his bank account, the withdrawals that he was making. He also discovered that there was a difference between the amount that he was withdrawing and the work experience that he had, the work that he had done. And so there was a big discrepancy there. And then he also discovered that the contractor really wasn't, he didn't build the properties in a sound structural way. So he had all these issues. And so the contractor then confronted the general contractor, the developer confronted the general contractor and said, explain these discrepancies. And he couldn't. In addition to that, he then abandoned the property. So it was like 50% developed, but a 50% project can't get funding. And so he went around to banks and other community organizations to get support, and everybody turned him down. So he was kind of at his wit's end. But he was also a member in our co-working space, and so he knew he had some hours of technical assistance. So he reached out to actually Stephen and Larry and said, this is my situation, can you help? And his response, and then Stephen and Larry said, of course. And so what they did was we provided him a couple $100,000 loan from our Northside Real Estate Development Fund. And we also introduced him to banks to provide a takeout on a long-term basis for the bridge financing that we provided. So he was thrilled with that because he had really gotten no other help. He said, no one wants to finance a partially completed project. And so that made it very difficult for him, but he was thrilled with that. So.
No, thank you for that. And so for everyone that's listening, knowing that resources and help is out there, and no one of us can fulfill the vision or dream that we have on our own. So please be willing to leverage the help and the resources that are available to you, because they do exist. And so Gloria, you started Olu's Home in a duplex, is that right?
A rental duplex.
A rental duplex back in 1999, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And that same building you purchased and remodeled?
No, I did not buy that building. It was
Okay.
owned by someone else that was not selling it. I bought another building. Actually, what happened was I rented that building. My daughter went to college, and I moved out of my home and started that as a residential site, and then I went buying after that. So I owned all of the residential sites now. But it's a funny story I want to talk about. When I first bought the building at City Inc., I had been banking with my banker for years. He knew that I was making money because in this industry, you make healthcare, you make, a decent income. And so, but the bank denied me my loan to buy City Inc. building.
I was going to ask you, what challenges did you face when you purchased your first
Yeah.
building? And did you purchase and remodel?
Yeah, I did.
Right.
I remodeled and purchased. So the bank denied me that I had been banking with for years. And what happened was I had support from another CDFI. And we went around and was determined to find someone to loan me the money because it was not because of my credit or anything like that. It was just, the fact that they were not in the business of loaning money in North Minneapolis. That's what I believe. I could be wrong. But what I learned later is when I went to buy my other commercial building, my banker that loaned me the money to buy the building in North Minneapolis didn't want to loan me the money to buy the other commercial building. And so what I found out is sometimes who you know, right? And so who knows who, and I'm gonna connect you to this fellow because that person knows that person, and then that's how I met my other banker, right, that ended up making the deal happen. And I guess what I want to point out is that challenges are meant to be there. You just got to work through them. It is a part of the process.
No, absolutely not. Thank you for that. Now, were there additional challenges? Because if I'm understanding correctly, that initial building, you serviced seniors and children in the same building?
Well, we started out, we did get licensed for both in the same
in the
building.
same
And yeah,
building.
and there were challenges because they felt that they didn't want licensing. That was more on the licensing part,
Okay.
that you get licensed for childcare and then you get licensed to provide seniors. And they were concerned about, the exit and entrance for, both children and seniors. But that was more, that had nothing to do with the financing.
The financing and getting
Yeah.
the loan and everything. So Kenya, you recently purchased your building, right, on Broadway, I think you mentioned. Did you have similar challenges? Did you find that you had similar experiences as Gloria in securing financing?
No. In fact, my bank is still a partner with me, Sunrise Bank. I just had no real barriers to me purchasing. Thankfully, I had some capital from my company that afforded me to pay for, all the costs, the exploration costs. You got to pay money, to investigate the building and that whole process. Now, I don't know how people do it without having at least $100,000 or so. But I so happened to have that. But I didn't have any challenges with the bank, honestly. I went and talked with the bank beforehand, and I had a very direct conversation. I told them what I wanted to do, and I asked them, how do we get to a yes? And they walked with me through the process to make sure the yes happened. And it was my job, to take care of the things that I could, that I was responsible for. They did their part, I did mine, and so we did business. And we did so with the also commitment of $4 million in tax, new market tax credits as part of my phase 2 after acquisition. Same thing with the city of Minneapolis. They've been a great partner. They're still a partner. They just allocated a special $1 million to my project. Just everybody's trying to help me get through the line. And I think I attribute some of that to relationships, my work in government and racial equity strategy and policy work, you know people, you understand the landscaping process, but all the work I've put in too, right? People do business with you. They don't really invest in your projects, they invest in you.
Come on.
And so the relationships and the sweat equity I put in over 20 years, putting it down out here, and people you know, they help you when you ask questions and do your part. And it isn't afforded to everybody, right? That's earned privilege. I'll honor that. I'll own that.
Hey, favor ain't fair.
Right, you know, but I didn't have the challenges from the bank. Now, the challenges I had came from the people in the community who were doubting what was possible.
Come on, be your own
And that
people,
was
right?
the issue that I ran across. And I really couldn't go to any institutions in our community necessarily because they didn't have the money to lend me. And I understood those processes, and I didn't want to go through 50 million things just to do something I knew was important and could happen without the red tape, right? That their funders required them to go through for risk lending. So I went directly to the source, which was the bank. And so the problem was, you know, they were like, oh, your building isn't worth $1.2 million. Like, how could it be valued at that? It's on the north side. So you're dealing with this, what I would call poverty mindset, you know, of thinking everything there has to be valued at a lower level. So folks weren't interested in supporting me in the pre-development phase because they thought I was crazy and that you know, we should be negotiating with the owner for a lower price. And even some of the tenants, it was crazy. I had the same issue where my tenants started disinvesting when I moved out. So when I became the owner, I somehow became the devil. I'm not sure what happened, but I worked through it. But the community's perspective, some folks, was that the building should have cost less and that I'm asking for too much by wanting to be supported and financed at $1.2 million. So the conversation with the bank is that, well, if this is what he wants for his property, are you in? They say, yes, we did deal, closed it, I'm the owner.
I love that you asked the question, how do we get to yes? Don't give me all the reasons why this won't work, right? Let's focus on how it will work. How do we get to yes? And the relationship piece, I think, is also really important. I think we encourage people to network, to network, to network. But there's a difference between networking and building a relationship with someone, right? And I think that is key because the people that you have relationship with will be more inclined to want to support you and help you because they know who you are, right?
Yes.
And it's not just a business plan on a piece of paper. They believe in you, the individual.
I just want to add, you have to understand banking as well. There are some deals banks would want to make, and there are some deals banks don't want to make.
Right.
And so you have to understand, just because one bank might decide that they don't want to get into that situation doesn't mean another bank. I'm more than happy for you, Kenya, that you've never had to go through an issue like that, but those are very real issues. And I want to make sure that people in this room understand, just because one says no doesn't mean you can't do it.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that you don't have a relationship with them, because I have a relationship with all my bankers. And they know me, I know them, and we worked through the process. I didn't just get a no. I got, well, Gloria, I'm concerned because we're going out your realm of your business. I do assisted living, right? I'll loan you money for any house or any project you want to do under
Because you've been a
Olu's
proven
own.
success in that industry.
Yes,
right?
I have proven success. When I decided I wanted to buy a block in Uptown and start a incubator space, House of Boutique at Trois, he's got a little scared. The bankers got scared because that's all my realm of things, right? But I found another banker that said, oh, I'm willing to take a risk. And let's make it happen. So that's the point I want to make.
And
it's not always that easy, like you had it, Kendra, with your banker.
And mine
but-
wasn't easy,
Oh,
right?
well, I mean,
but I do
yeah,
understand what
yeah.
you're saying. I'm an exception, not the rule.
Right.
Of how banking works in our community.
Right.
And by no means, even the bank that I use somebody else has a different perspective. Because they had a
Right.
different
Right.
experience, and they've
Right.
said no, and they've done
Right.
bad.
Right.
And so I didn't even name them because I'm not taunting them as a, because they've
Yeah.
done some other things in our community.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do agree that
Yeah.
it also was in their interest to do these. So they're not just doing deals because you qualify. Sometimes it's in their best interest to do deals in certain areas at certain times for certain points and
Well, they have
equity that they want to score.
regulations.
They do. It's called CRA.
And I don't want to lead the witness with this next question, right? But as I hear us talking about perceptions and different perspectives, right? I've heard some inclinations that, where I want to purchase or where I want to start a business, there may be some perceptions based on geography, right? An area or a community. You all mentioned, the role that your race may have played in how you were perceived. But then there's the intersection point of race and gender with the three of you up here. Do you believe that some of your challenges that you faced may have had to do with your race and gender being Black women? Are there challenges, particularly for the other Black women out here in the audience, that they should be prepared to navigate, that they may face because of the intersectionality of race and gender? And Anissa, I'll start with you. Have you had any experiences with feeling like some of your challenges have emerged because of the intersectionality of your race and gender?
Yeah. I mean, some is just like, being a Black woman and everything that's hard that comes with that in general. And then when you show up to spaces, how you're perceived, how you need to carry yourself, right? How if you want to assert yourself, how that all of a sudden maybe feels aggressive. Or if you want to be firm, how it feels like you're not flexible. And so there's some of that perception. In general with development, this whole thing has been a fight. And I hope I don't start crying. This has been really hard. I mean, I just got a call from the city of Minneapolis probably about 3 or 4 days ago for some additional funding for my Black business ecosystem. And the conversation went something like, so reportedly you're refusing to rent to white business owners. And I was like, so is this a civil rights complaint? Like, how does somebody get to question my integrity?
Right.
And my vision, just because they can, and then all of a sudden some funding is in question because they did. And now you are questioning me, and I am compelled, or I have to answer, it seems like, in order to get access to this funding. Who does that? While I'm actively being discriminated against, both through the intersection of gender and my race, that I am experiencing regularly in the banking industry, regularly in my field. Everything is a fight for a Black woman in business, a Black woman in development. So the insult that comes with somebody questioning whether or not I'm renting to white business owners when the building is not even accessible for people to rent, period. So, and I had to explain that, but imagine me just having to explain, right? And how traumatizing that was for me. Like, as as a therapist, like really being aware of, like, my breathing changed, right? My heart got, a little like fluttered. So we're met with those on a regular basis, so much so, and they come in so micro or macro, like the one that I experienced, that it's just like a regular thing. You're constantly fighting. It feels like it's a constant fight. And so we're met with a lot of challenges. That was just an example because that was a recent one. That's one that I'm still processing through and still trying to figure out. I've made some other phone calls, but I really have no power to sort of undermine this person's questioning. And it sounds like even legally, I probably didn't have to answer, but but I did because of the pressure that I felt like I was under, like we oftentimes feel like, well, we have to because we're always sort of in that oppressed space. And so, anyway, so I kind of went on a rant. I'm kind of processing out loud here. I apologize.
appreciate
anyway,
your-
yes, Black women, we are met with a lot of challenges. It's
And I
regularly a
appreciate
fight.
your transparency and your vulnerability on that. Based on your experience, any recommendations on how to best navigate that type of adversity when you're faced with it?
Yeah, you need a good squad around you.
Not
need
like
a-
squad up, let's roll up on this.
Yeah,
Sometimes, maybe.
Yeah, you need a good team of folks around you to help you process. You need people to go to give you insight about how to move, whether that's attorneys, whether that's politicians, whether that's just community builders. So you need those folks in your corner to help you sort of process through that. In general, you just need space to balance, right? Like your world cannot be just business. Your world cannot just be development. Like you need leisure, you need self-care, you need family, right? And so I think the biggest thing is that if it becomes sort of like all of you have, then I think it becomes like traumatic all the time, or it becomes hard all the time to work through. And so I think there just needs to be a balance of you having outlets that you need, that spaces that you can go to release, to reaffirm you, to support you, to push you through, to keep your head above level, right? To pray for you, to lay hands on you, right? And so, and I have all those pieces. And so I think that has helped me to be able to push forward.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. Kenya, what are your thoughts on that? I don't want to make an assumption that you've experienced adversity at the intersection of race and gender as well, but if you have, what are some recommendations on how to navigate that?
I mean, I think that's just it. Like, if I sit here and present in my excellence, I might be perceived as being arrogant, or I'm, not facing adversity. But aren't we here to strive and be our best, right? And so I should be able to speak how I'm speaking, saying what I'm saying, because I'm proud of what I've done, right? In my life and in my work, without that being seen as being somewhere else, right? I come straight out of street, gang life, all of that, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, these depths are important and to share so that people who come from nowhere, right, understand that you can be anywhere you want to be and do what you want to do, and there are no real barriers, right? Outside of what we create. I expect the bank to be excellent, right? I expect everybody in front of me
They have great
to
expectations.
present their best
absolutely.
and do their best and make sure that they do what they can to make sure I'm successful. That is my expectation.
So great
And I
expectations
proceed in
every
that way,
aspect. Yeah.
period. And so I just want to say that because I think it's important that we adapt that mindset, or at least consider that. But yeah, you face adversities. I mean, this is hard. I was like trying last week, like, you know what? If I would have known, right, all the things that this entails, I so happen to have that money for pre-development to pay for things in the beginning, but I don't know how we do it, right? Without having some level of resource. I mean, I don't have an example of anyone in my family or network who's done this successfully, right? So there's a lot of learning, right? I mean, my time I don't have no time. I wake up and go to sleep working. So I watch men, and black men too, but men be promoted, supported. They're taunted all over the city as the motto of this is what we're doing. They're in leadership. Black men run politics and economics in the state, period, however we want to cut it. And so I can't talk about that necessarily because I'm being, an agitator. I'm dividing the family, all those things. But the reality is that we're not getting what we need, to be supported. And we have to work a little harder. Now, we all work hard, but we're working even harder to be seen, to be taken serious because we're women, right? That our ideas are valid, the money, right? And, I'm sitting there talking to the city and Met Council today, and they go, oh, I'm so happy to hear you speak so clearly. And I'm thinking, what do you, but I get it, right? But I'm tired of hearing that too. What do you expect me to say,
Right.
I'm supposed to be competent, right? And so just the low bar and of what we can do, are supposed to do as women, and where we, you know what I'm saying? It's a barrier to me and to many other women before me, and certainly those are, on this field together. And I'm really most times insulted that people are, just shocked that we can do what we're doing. We've always done this. This is not new. Black women have always played the role in our entire history, but at the same time, we all understand some of the deficits we face and where that lies with Black women. So why don't you think we need to be supported, right? In what we're doing, not with your advice, not with all the people that you can put up your money, period. Right. And so we don't have enough of that, and I need to see more of that in what we're doing. We shouldn't have to work as hard as we need to raise $10 million. It's one of the wealthiest states in the country.
Facts.
Why am I doing 50 flips for something that can just happen like that? So the white lady's not doing that, but that's what I have to do. So yes, we're not coming from long-term generational wealth in a sense where somebody can just write us a $5 million check or $2 million. They'll give it to our nonprofits, which we want you to, but we need that too. And so you will have to, we're playing in the good old boys game out here. And there'll be no special privileges because we're women. That's what I'm learning. And I'm not looking for it, but I am looking for the opportunity to succeed, not because of my gender, but because of, this is what I'm after and what I'm doing. And you just have to build good relationships and just demand that people, respect you and meet you where you are in your journey, and just keep going regardless.
No, thank you for that, and just not allowing your race or your gender to be an obstacle. Know your worth. Know that you are more than enough. Whatever someone tries to impose upon you, you don't have to receive that. Just know your worth and know that you are more than enough.
You are worthy.
And be careful with your own inferior thinking.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So that would be your counsel to any woman, any Black woman that may be anybody. Right, okay. Anybody.
Yeah.
Right? Don't allow yourself to get caught up in that train of imposter syndrome, right? And thinking that you're not enough, you're not worthy. Okay. No, I appreciate that. Gloria, I want to move on as we get close to wrapping up and ask you, from the time that you first got into business and, we're securing loans to purchase buildings and remodel buildings, how has the financial relationships with banks changed? How has the willingness or the process for going about getting funded or getting loans, has that changed much? Because, in the last, a lot of things have changed just in the last 3 years, right? But from when you first made that first purchase, how has that process changed, if at all? Easier, harder?
So I guess I wouldn't say easy or harder. What I've learned is that I create relationships with my bankers, with my attorneys, with everyone that's in my surrounding. They want to see me win, and I want to see them win. And when you create those kind of relationships, that's what helps. That's what helps when a banker sends your package. Their bank doesn't want to do it. So the banker says, "Can I send your package to this other bank, because I'm sure they're going to want to do the deal." That's all about relationship, right? And so what I've learned throughout my journey is that relationships are the key. It's the old saying, the good old boys, right? It really boils down to who trusts you and who you trust. I really believe that. And so if you can create good relationships where people know who you are and they trust you and you trust them, the sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want to do, because people are going to know who you are, and they're going to know how serious you are about your business, and everybody wants to be part of a winning team.
Yes, yes. Like the Timberwolves. I'm sorry.
So that's what I've learned. I mean, from the very first time when I was buying houses in my name because I didn't have an LLC, till I met a banker that said, oh, Gloria, you need to have these properties in an LLC, and he helped me through that process. And then my commercial space in North Minneapolis, and then my commercials, my whole block in Uptown.
Right, that's right.
Sorry. And then some land in North Minneapolis that we were able to pay cash for, so, with my partner,
I
but.
told you she was a mogul, right?
No, you did say that. You did say that.
But what I've learned is that, you know, you get people in your corner, that core team, and they're gonna shoot, you know, they're gonna wanna see you succeed. People wanna see success amongst each other. And I don't think it, you know, people in my corner are black, white, you know, to me, it's not a race thing, it's a winning thing. And so that's how I approach things.
No, thank you
Right?
all. You talk about a lot of challenges, and Warren, I want to come to you after I make this statement. You all talked about a lot of challenges, right? But I love the passion, the conviction, and the courage, right, to pursue your vision, to make those dreams a reality. And so I just want to share a quick, just how I've captured what you all just shared is on this journey of entrepreneurship and business, right? The process is the same for all of us. It's vision, adversity, and victory. That's it. You have to start with a vision. There's no vision, the people will, what does Steve Harvey say? That when people will perish, Steve Harvey said that, right? Okay. But we have to have a vision, right? And then on that journey, you are going to experience adversity. It is unavoidable. That is a season we like to avoid, but that is an unavoidable season on this journey of entrepreneurship, vision, adversity. But then as long as you do not give up, you do not quit, you believe in yourself, you stay encouraged, you will get to the victory phase. You will get to the victory season. But you will not go through any of those seasons alone if you expect to get to the victory season. Even in the vision, you need someone that's going to help you breathe life into that vision and into that dream. Definitely in the adversity phase, you're going to need some support to help pick you up, lift you up, dust you off, and encourage you to keep going when you stumble and fall. And even in that victory season, right, when you get to that mountaintop, that peak that you aspire to reach, you're going to need somebody there to kind of keep you humble and remember why you're doing what you do, right? Because, yeah, we all want to get to that mountaintop, but let us not forget that the fruit is grown in the valley that gives us the sustenance to get to that mountaintop that we seek. And Warren, you and Neon have helped a number of people. You have been that support system for a number of BIPOC businesses and entrepreneurs for years now in that vision phase, in that adversity phase, in that victory phase. What are some of the programs that you've offered? And as we were talking about some of the challenges with financial support, what are some of the ways that you can be that support system through financial programming for those at every step, every season, every phase of their journey?
Well, right now we have a commercial real estate program we talked about earlier, it's $1.5 million. We also have a small loan fund as well for really small loans. We also have relationships with other organizations. We're part of the Catalyst Group, excuse me, that has the Minnesota Inclusive Growth Fund, which is about an $18 million fund that we are a part of, that we can access for loans. And then we're part of the state's the Emerging Entrepreneur Loan Fund. So those are the programs that we have in addition to the TA that we provide, which is our bread and butter. So I mean, what we do best is build relationships with our clients, understand their business, and try to get in the trenches with them so we understand what's needed. What you're seeing here is, they've described this, and I like what you said, but I think what makes them unique is they've also had a path to overcoming the challenges. I mean, everybody doesn't succeed in development. It is a very tough business. And I'm learning that now. We're trying to do we're working on building our commercial kitchen. And you got to need a team, as both all of them have said. You need a team, and you need a team around you. And you also need to be what I would call teachable. If you aren't teachable, you're going to learn by experience, and you may go broke learning by experience.
A good listener.
Yeah.
So you got to be a good listener. You have to be teachable. And so you don't come at it with, I know everything, or I'm not willing to listen to this person or that person. You got to get a team. And if you're going to get in development, you need to go to someone who has done development, because you can learn from the experiences that they had, so that you don't have to experience that. And so if you learn from those folks who've already developed properties, they can tell you, this is what you need to avoid, this is what you need to look out for, this is what you need to think about. I'd also say get a real estate lawyer, because you need someone who can look at the contracts that you get. I mean, you need to, you need to pay attention to your financing too, because some things you'll sign on a dotted line for, but you don't know what you committed to. And then when you find out later on, you've committed to X, and you realize you have maybe a penalty that you didn't anticipate, then you've got those problems as well. So you need someone to look over that, your contracts, your banking relationships. You need to have someone who's experienced in that, so they can tell you, this is what you need to look out for, this is what you need to push back on. And so I think you need to have a team. You need to make sure you're around experienced people, and try to get as much knowledge as you can from as many people as you can. And make sure you pay attention to the consistent themes that you hear. You may hear some one-off stuff, but there'll be consistent patterns that you hear that you can learn from, like you're hearing from all of these ladies here that they're telling you certain things. But one thing they haven't done is talk about the barriers that they had, or allowed the fact that gender or race stopped them.
Right.
Okay. And as I started out by saying, it's execution that really counts. And all of them have executed, and they continue to execute, and they will do even greater. So we're thrilled to have them to lift up what can be done in North Minneapolis. And I want you to understand that we're about building wealth in North Minneapolis for the Black community in particular. And these ladies have done that, and they continue to do that, and they're role models for this community. And so we want to make sure that we understand that we will not be stopped unless we allow ourselves to be stopped.
Amen. Appreciate that, brother. So as we close out, in our last couple of minutes, 60 seconds or less. 60 seconds or less. I will call the Sandman up here on you. What one piece of advice would you like to offer to our audience? Start with you, Kenya.
I think so the owner, the previous owner, is also a mentor of mine, and he's a real estate, giant. And so learning from that perspective has been enormous for me, and just having a good team. So I would say I agree, learning from those who have done it, but also being clear in your vision and being teachable, because everything I wanted to happen happened when it was going to happen, and I just had to kind of get with it. So being flexible is really important, and being willing to change as needed to get to the finish line. And we don't always know what that looks like, but just stay open, focused, diligent, and get good people around you. So that's what I would recommend.
Surround yourself with good people. I like that. Thank you. Anissa, 60 seconds or less. What you got for the people?
I think she did longer than 60. You gave her
Come on, you out here snitching?
Okay. Okay.
I did like 20.
What I would say is that I think when I sit down with just doing some business coaching, people are always asking, like, how'd you do it? And they want the steps. And I think what's more important is, like, who you have to become. I think Warren and Kenya hit on that. Like, I think the focus should be on more, how do you develop yourself to be successful, so that no does not matter, so that mistakes are looked at as opportunities to learn, right? And so that when you get the adversity and you're met with that, that you already have a support, or you already have like a way to be able to get over that. And so it's really about who you need to become, which sometimes for Black women, it means healing, right? How you do life is how you do business, right? How you show up is how you're gonna show up everywhere. And so I think thinking about who you need to become to be successful, less about what you need to do, who you need to know, where you need to go, all that other good stuff.
No, thank you very much. Yep. Gloria?
Become a life learner. Always listen, pay attention. Don't beat yourself up because of the mistakes. Know that they're there for a reason. It's to help you grow. And be good to yourself, and whatever that means to you.
All right. Y'all be good to yourselves and each other, too. So let's give a round of applause for our panelists. And our host, Mr. Warren McLean. Thank you, Warren. Thank you all so much for the gift of your time. Thank you all for being here and sharing this time with us. I know all of our time is valuable. But Warren, before we leave, I want to give you these final words. If people want to continue the conversation, if they want to learn more about how to get involved with NEON, what do you have for us?
Well, first I'd say go to our website at neon-mm.org, and so you can learn more about us there. There's also a website that we have at info@neonmn.org as well, and I think it's up on the screen, so you can also learn about our campaign there. So we encourage you to do that. We've got a major commercial kitchen and food incubator that we want to build, we intend to build in North Minneapolis, so we're really excited about that. We think it'll be catalytic for North Minneapolis, and so we think it's a huge opportunity to invest in our community, catalyze investment in North Minneapolis even greater, and also deal with the fact that North Minneapolis is one of the largest food deserts in the country, so this will also impact that in a very positive way. In terms of, in addition to that, it'll create jobs, both during construction phase and permanently. So.
All right, thank you. Another round of applause. You all have just experienced the first installment of Building Wealth, a female business owner's perspective. And now, without further ado, I think it's time for food and drink. Is that food and drink? Drink in two steps, something like that? It's just my drink and my two-step. Okay, all right, thank you all. Please enjoy.